First of all, I want to say that every Survivor winner deserves to win. Even with $1 million on the line, the average person could not make it 39 days with limited food and shelter. Yet, these winners not only made it 39 days, but did enough during those hard times to earn the majority vote from the jury. I mean, there's people who could play this game 100 times and never win Survivor. Plus, each winner has their luck in their own way. They're lucky to even be casted on that specific season, where there's thousands of people and hundreds in their archetype willing to take their spot. The greatest player ever in Tony was originally supposed to be a fan on season 26, which would have greatly hindered his chances of winning. But still, there's no doubt that some winners got luckier than others, and if it wasn't for a specific set of circumstances, more than likely they wouldn't have won the game. What's up guys, I'm Flynn Masters, and today we'll be looking at the 5 luckiest winners in Survivor history. Now, we won't necessarily be looking at the biggest lucky breaks for Survivor winners, such as Wu making a $3 million mistake, or Tyson having a 1 in 3 chance of going home via a rock. We'll be more looking at the amount of lucky breaks these players got that helped them get to the end and ultimately win the game. Also, this list won't necessarily be made up of lower tier winners, as just because you might have had a bad winning game doesn't necessarily mean you were super lucky. You did what you had to do to win, just not in the strongest way. Lastly, you might expect Nick Wilson to be on this list, or even at the top of the list, considering he was going to be the first boot had Pat not been evacuated. But there's been too many post-game interviews saying that it was just the edit playing up Nick going home, and both Pat and Lirso were on the chopping block. Considering how good of a player Nick ended up being, I'm confident he would have made it past the first tribal, and at worst, may have received a couple votes. With that said, let's get this list started with number 5. Not even going to beat around the bush on this one, as no matter what you think of the other 39 winning games in Survivor history, none of them can say they are voted out. And this man not only got voted out and came back, but got other numerous lucky breaks as well. We're of course talking about Chris Underwood. It's been said over and over again how fortunate he was to be the third boot and even get a chance to win, but let's look at the other fortunate events that led to Chris's improbable victory. In the first Battleback Challenge, he was actually lucky that he didn't win, as he didn't have the amount of connections that Devon's had, and more than likely would have been voted out shortly after his comeback. And the only reason he didn't win the first challenge was due to the fact that he was easily the biggest physical threat out of the first 6 eliminated, and was battered with disadvantages. When he did eventually win his way back, he was granted with an idol at the final 5. Granted, you could say you have to give him credit for getting past the final 6 round to earn that idol, but he had all the information from EOE about Lauren's idol and what a big jury threat Victoria was, making his move all that more unimpressive. Now, there's no question you have to give him credit for the final 4 move, giving up his necklace to face Devon's in fire, but to be honest, I think that's a move anyone should make in that spot, and it still blows my mind that Natalie didn't do the same thing in Winners at War. In the end, Chris is already more lucky than any other winner due to getting voted out, but his info he got from the Edge, along with getting the chance to make friends with basically every jury member, and receiving an idol at the final 5, make him easily the luckiest winner in Survivor history. The next person has always been one of my personal favorite winners, but not looked at as a great winner by the fan base. I think a lot of this is due to winning the season despite there being so many other rootable and memorable players, leaving a meh feeling towards the winner. But there is also a major flaw, albeit an unfair flaw, in this person's game that make him stand out as a lucky winner. I'm talking about Aris from Season 12, Exile Island. Some could say that he was lucky that he wasn't the first boot of the season, as Lamina came really close to losing the first immunity challenge, and Aris seemed to be the one most on the outs. However, it's speculated that Nick would have volunteered to go home, as he got them lost on the way to camp. What's more of a lucky break for Aris is Terry winning all of those immunity challenges after the merge, because had he lost any of them, more than likely Aris would have gone home. You see, this was the time before the regular immunity idol, and Terry's idol was basically a super idol, being able to play the idol after the votes had been read. Had he lost any of these immunity challenges, Aris would have gone home, as the vote was always on Terry, and Lamina's votes were always on Aris, and the super idol would have idled him out of the game. Now, some people use this to deteriorate from Aris's game, but I think it's stupid to take away from his win due to an unfair super idol. However, he was obviously lucky that Terry was a 46-year-old challenge beast, and won all those immunity challenges. He's also lucky his closest ally happened to be one of the best players of all time in Suri, who created the insane 3-2-1 plurality vote to save Aris when he was almost certain to go home. Then, in the final immunity challenge, in literally the only challenge she could beat Terry in, Danielle not only somehow beat Aris and Terry, but turned her back on Terry after he saved her in the previous tribal, securing the victory for Aris. Now, you do have to give credit to Aris' social game and that he was able to get Suri to save him and get Danielle to turn her back on Terry and take him to the final 2 instead. And if Terry would have lost immunity challenges, we don't know for sure if the Kasayas would have done anything differently. Maybe we might have got the invention of the split or safe vote in this season instead of the seasons to follow. But still, a lot of things went right for Aris to win Panama. And while I think it's unfair to knock his overall game, he narrowly escaped on multiple occasions, something that's unlikely to happen for most Survivor winners. Let's get back to controversial winners for a second, shall we? While this player is no doubt beloved in the community now, their winning game was super controversial, not only due to the story we were being told, but due to the amount of luck she got. I'm of course talking about Michelle Fitzgerald's game and Survivor Ko-Rong. First of all, it took her 22 days to attend her first tribal council, and only attended 6 in total, the lowest amount in Survivor history for a winner. And to make matters worse, had she gone to tribal on her original or swap tribe, she would have been the first one to go home. Then, at the final 5, Michelle was supposed to go home at that tribal council as well, but was spared after Joe's medevac. Now, credit where credit is due. She's easily one of the best social players in Survivor history, and her second outing in Winners at War proves she belongs with the all-time greats. But there's no doubt that Michelle was extremely lucky to not attend any tribal councils in the pre-merge, and that Joe couldn't stop stuffing his face with meat. I want to make a sexual joke, but you know what? I think it's best we just move on to number 2. You know how I said earlier that this list isn't full of bad winners? Well, this person may just be one of the best winners and players in Survivor history, but that doesn't change the fact that they were incredibly lucky. The next player on the list that got extremely lucky on their road to victory is Miss Parvati Shallow. As I said before, she was lucky to be even brought back in the first place, as it was supposed to be Candace in her spot. But despite the already lucky break, she got many other lucky breaks in the actual game as well. Right away, she was targeted as the first boot, and in all likelihood would have been, as Fairplay would have voted her out at the first tribal council. However, it was Fairplay that was voted out first, as he voluntarily asked to be voted out of the game. Kathy also quit at the final 13, and Penner and James were both medically evacuated. Due to all these unexpected eliminations, production had to make the game longer, and instead of a final 3 with a 7-person jury, it was switched to a final 2 with an 8-person jury. This was a massive break for Parvati, as her alliance with Amanda and Suri planned on going to the end together. Now, while the vote is close, it may have been a 3-2-2 vote in fact, Suri does take the win in this scenario. Again, credit to Parvati for her incredible gameplay throughout the season, and her relationship with Amanda to take her to the end, and ultimately the victory. But despite how great of a player she is, she was extremely lucky to even get a chance to play, not be the first boot, and the impromptu final 3. It really goes to show that even the greats can get lucky. This last person is a bit of an interesting one to talk about, as I think this person is one of the most underrated and underappreciated winners in Survivor history. And it's not like there's any big, noticeably lucky breaks in their game, as some of the other winners on this list. But at the time, winning a game like they did was unheard of, yet they somehow managed to do it. The last lucky winner we'll be talking about is Vecepia, winner of Survivor Marquesas. Again, there's nothing inherently super lucky about her game, but it's not something that was very repeatable, which I guess could be argued is what makes her such an underrated player. And while I am in the camp of loving Vecepia's game, she was really fortunate that she wasn't just a forgettable jury member. What makes Vecepia so great is that she was really the first person ever to realize she wasn't going to get anywhere with her tribe, so it'd be best to make cross-tribal alliances, especially since there were no idols or advantages at the time. Survivor in its first 3 seasons was very basic by the numbers. Sure, we would see a target within a tribe every once in a while, like Kelly being targeted in Borneo, or the Ogakor Alliance blindsiding Jerry and Amber when they felt necessary, but we had never seen an outright flip. And unfortunately for Vecepia, as great as she was, she really had no influence in the Nalia and Pascal flip. It was a massive break from production, combined with the stupidity of the Road to 4, which showed Nalia and Pascal that they were on the bottom, and had to flip to save themselves. Had the Coconut Challenge never happened, it's likely V would have been picked off along with Sean and Kathy, with John Carroll ultimately winning the Marquesas in Bryden Heidick-like fashion. Then at the Final 4, we get another incredibly underrated move from Vecepia. I know a lot of people like to downplay needing immunities to save themselves, but no immunity win was more deserving than this one, as Vecepia kept notes of all the players knowing this challenge would come up, and used her notes to pull out a clutch victory. However, what followed was an extreme series of fortunate events for Vecepia. For some reason, the producers had never thought of a fair Final 4 tiebreaker type challenge yet, and thought drawing rocks would be the best way to go. Pascal, who was safe, drew the bad rock, sending him home. This led to V making yet another underrated move, being the first to make a final 2 deal during the final immunity challenge with Nalia, to which she accepted and ultimately beat Nalia in a 4-3 vote. The problem was, this was her only path to victory. Had it been the usual fire-making challenge, or even any type of tiebreaker challenge, like the one used in Africa, Vecepia had no path to victory. Say Nalia beat Kathy in the Final 4 challenge. That means V would have to beat Pascal and Nalia in the final immunity challenge, and this time, Nalia would not accept a deal with V, had it been Pascal competing with them instead of Kathy. Vecepia is a tough and competitive woman, but I just can't imagine a scenario, barring a random lack of concentration, that she beats young and fit Nalia in the final immunity challenge. V goes home, and we get a final 2 of Nalia and Pascal. If Kathy were to win the Final 4 challenge, then V has literally no way of winning, as even if she were to get to the end, both Kathy and Pascal would beat her. Production put Pascal in an extremely unfair position, as he was the one to go home despite not receiving any votes, which gave Vecepia her one and only path to victory. Like I said, Vecepia is one of, if not the most underrated winner in Survivor history. But she got big time help from production due to the Final 9 challenge, and there's still not being a simple Final 4 challenge between the two vote getters in Nalia and Kathy. In most seasons, either the big Road to Alliance would have stuck together, or had this been any other season with the usual fire-making challenge, she doesn't win either. It took the perfect season and circumstances for V to win, and by golly, did she take advantage of that. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like what you see, then hit that like and subscribe button, and tell all your friends about my channel, as the more Survivor channels, the better. Follow me on all my socials at Flynn_Masters, and I'll see you guys next time.